Good afternoon, Dr. Sanjay. We're very excited to have a conversation with you. Today, we're going to try and understand the contours of your career and put together some mental models and frames of reference that our community members can adopt to build careers of meaning and significance. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and what do you do today?
So, hi, very good afternoon to you too. And I am currently working as the India Country Director of Lakshmi, Mittal and Family South Asia Institute at Harvard University. And I am based out of Delhi. And I have been in this role since last 3 years. And before this, I was working with a women's organization called SEWA. And I was director for the All India Federation of all SEWA organizations called SEWA Bharat, and I worked there for about 17 years.
Wonderful. You've recently written a book as well. Could you tell us what it's about and how did you come to write it?
Yeah, so I wrote a book recently, and which is published and out in the market, and it's called Katihar to Kennedy: The Road Less Traveled. So it's basically my journey from my hometown Katihar, which is a small town in Bihar, and as you know, Bihar is one of the most backward states in our country. So I grew up in Katihar and ended up at Kennedy School for my studies, recently, few years ago. So I thought that, why not to document my journey, and so that people and especially students from smaller districts can learn a bit from my journey. And so, that is why I wrote this book. It's an autobiography, and it's about my journey.
When did you start writing this book?
So I started writing this book when I was at the Kennedy School in 2015. So I graduated in 2015, and I started writing this book just before the graduation ceremony. So, and that is when I decided also to write. So it took me about 3.5 years to complete this, and I would say that I did not pay much attention to it in all these 3.5 years, but so I used to write a bit every day, every week, every month kind of thing, and it took me about 3.5 years.
Yeah. And what prompted you to write it? What did you want to communicate? You mentioned briefly that you wanted to inspire young people in smaller towns.
Yeah, so basically, as I mentioned about my hometown Katihar, and it's a small town, and it's a small town. I went to a government school there, and the condition of the government schools today is worse than what it used to be during our times, and somehow it was not attractive. The schools were not attractive. My school was not at all attractive. It was not even, I would say that it was if you compare it with private schools today, so it was very bad. And even if you compare government schools with Kendriya Vidyalaya and Navodaya Vidyalaya, the government schools are very bad. So when I used to go to my school every time I used to visit my hometown, and I realized that somehow I got out of the town, and I studied in Delhi University and in JNU, finished my PhD from JNU, and then I also went to Kennedy School, Harvard Kennedy School, for my further studies, double MA. I did it from Kennedy School. So when I compare myself with thousands and thousands of students in the small towns who are going to government schools, so their condition is pathetic. The way they are being groomed, and so I thought that and many of them succumb to the condition of the schools, and they don't continue with their education. So, and the way I also continued my education has a very interesting story. So I thought that the way I struggled myself, and the way I struggled to achieve whatever I could achieve in my life. It took my courage, it took a lot of struggle, and a lot of hand holding by some of my family members, And so I thought that the students of these small towns, or even tier 2 cities, or any student who is struggling to be a good student and who wants to achieve something in life, I thought that my journey can tell them a lot, and why not to share my journey with thousands and thousands of students who can get help. And also I feel that each of us has a story, so it's very useful to share our stories. Yeah, so that's why I decided to do so.
So 3.5 years of solid hard work resulted in a book which was published last year.
Yeah, hard work and hard work, I would say.
Hard and hard work. That's usually a good combination. Many of our community members actually do not live in India. So could you give them a flavor of what was school like when you were growing up? Like paint a clear picture. And you keep going back, right? So how much has changed? In Katihar?
Yeah. So Katihar, I'd say that like it's a kind of example for me. And you take many other districts and you would find the similar situation. So it's good that you asked this question, and I would be happy to share that what kind of school I went to. So and what is the situation now. And so during our times, I think the education system was not, I would say, very good, but it was okay. And it was okay because there were no private schools, and everyone from the town or from the village or wherever, their kids used to go to the government schools, because there were no private schools. There were private schools in only few districts, including Patna, Muzaffarpur, big cities, and very few private schools. So which means that even the collector's sons, the son and daughter of district magistrate or the senior officials or the local MPs and MLAs, they used to attend the same school. So there was a stakeholding of the middle class and influential people. But what happened that in 1990s, mid 90s, a lot of private schools started coming in. And as we all know, that market understands the demand and supply thing. So one side, people started seeing new private schools teaching English or adopting new methods of teaching, whereas the public schools, the government schools, were not catching up. So, and that is how so those who are able to afford today, they send their kids to private schools. And eventually what happened, that even the public officials and the elected representatives, they don't have any stakeholding, even the middle class. So situation has deteriorated. During our times, you would be surprised to know there was no scope for sports and games, and there was no science practical labs. So there was just this curriculum which teachers used to follow, and beyond that we did not have exposure to anything else. So until grade 10th. Today, when I go to the same school,
So why do you do that? Is it an organization that you're volunteering with, or have you started, or is it part of the India Center of the Harvard University?
No, so it is a voluntary work, and I feel very strong about rejuvenating the public school system in India, and we have started from Bihar, so that is why I keep going there. So today the situation is that extracurricular activities they don't have any extracurricular activities yet. They have a library, but library they don't use. Many students don't know even what's going on in the library. They don't have science labs yet. So if you see the data in Bihar, 90% of the schools, they don't have computers. About 70% students, they don't have access or they don't use the libraries. And as a matter of fact, 80% of the kids go to these public schools, I'm just giving you a rough data. And 80% of the kids are using government schools and colleges. Even then the situation, the conditions of the schools are not good. And just not condition, but also the availability of teachers. Just for example, in my school,
which school did you go to?
So I went to a school called Harishankar Naik Uch Vidyalaya. It's Harishankar Naik High School, and it used to be until grade 10th, but now it's until grade 12th. And I'll give you one example that how do I see the deterioration in last so many years. That during our time, at least we used to have teachers for all the classes or all the subjects, but now that school has only one teacher for grade 11th and 12th, and that is also the music teacher. So just imagine about say 500 kids who are filling out forms every year. So they fill out forms through that school, but they don't have any teacher. And so they are banking upon coaching institutions or private tuitions, and that is where they are going. So this is the situation. So the situation, and there are other things like the toilets. The condition of toilet is horrible. In our school, we did not used to have a toilet. Even now, it does not have any toilet. So this time we started working in the middle school. Our volunteers started working in the nearby middle school, and in that school, when I went to use the toilet, it was like very disgusting to see that how the students would be using the toilet. And on the other hand, we are talking about Swachh Bharat mission, where our government is trying to push cleanliness. But it is also about not only government, but it is also about the responsibility of the citizens, the responsibility of the teachers, responsibility of the stakeholders, the parents. They don't bother about such things, and the administrators, they don't bother about these things. As I said, that I find that there is no stakeholding of middle class and influential people in the public school system, and that is why it has deteriorated that much.
And you're trying to address that by forming small communities, mentorship networks there. Could you give us some snippets of what's working, what's not, what are the challenges?
Yeah. So as I mentioned that I'm doing some voluntary work, and so we have created a group of volunteers under a banner called Ed Justice India. Ed Justice is education justice, and I believe that there are so many, the politicians mainly and the political parties, they talk about so many justices, and especially the social justice and etc., etc. But I believe that if you give a child justice in education, if you do justice in education with kids, then you don't need to give them any other support, because we all are product of education. Whatever we are today, it's all because of education. So that is why we created this group, and it's a all voluntary run campaign. We call it a Justice People's Campaign, and the campaign is to rejuvenate, the goal of the campaign is to rejuvenate public education system in India. And we started from Bihar, and especially from my school and the district I belong to. But it is a very replicable model, and which can go to anywhere in the country very easily. And we started with a view that how do we engage middle class, and how do we engage people who have knowledge, and they can contribute their knowledge, their time to the students who are studying in these schools. And so in Hindi we call it Gyan Dan. So Gyan Dan, through Gyan Dan we can create a lot of enthusiasm and energy among younger kids, and that is what we are trying to do. So the model is that you take up any school and you mobilize some volunteers, the local volunteers. The ideal situation is that local volunteers come and contribute or give some time, say 2 to 3 hours in a week or in a month, and take up special classes around whatever they know. There are doctors, engineers, lawyers, retired bureaucrats, retired faculties, retired professors, teachers. So they can spare some time, and even the active citizens, like those who are not retired, they can also come and take special classes around their area of interest. and they can take classes around career counseling and guidance, which is a huge need there. And so through this Gyan Dan, through this contribution of knowledge, they can teach these kids the things which are not being taught by the teachers or which are not covered under the curriculum. And as in many situations, as we see, there are no teachers. So what do they do? So that is the campaign all about. So how do we mobilize local people and motivate them to come and work in the school and college, public high schools and colleges, and give these lectures, extra classes, take these extra classes. So that is one area of intervention where we have been taking the volunteers from Delhi University and DTU and JNU. So these universities, the kids are the students of these universities. They are going on their own cost. They are going. They are giving their time. They are going to Katihar. They don't have any connection with Bihar. You would be surprised to know that. But they are young and they are enthusiastic and they want to contribute back to the society. So they go there and they stay there for a week or 2 weeks and they run special workshops with the students. And that is how we are trying to demonstrate to the local people that look, these guys are coming from Delhi and you can also come forward and contribute to these schools, kids. And so that is one intervention. The second intervention which we started recently is around mentoring. And we realized that there are a lot of students, young kids in these schools who can do much better if they get some guidance by people who have knowledge or who wants to contribute back to the society. So we started this mentoring challenge. So you keep seeing various challenges on Facebook, like selfie with daughter, this challenge, fitness challenge. So I thought that why can't we have a challenge, #mentoring challenge, where we reach out to people through Facebook and through social media, and people living in big cities or even in small towns, they can take up this challenge and mentor a younger kid for at least a year. And at least a year, because I think that in a year's time they can develop a good bond, and the mentor and mentee can understand the benefit, see the benefit of the relationship, and they can continue if they wish, if they want. And and in that challenge you'll be surprised to know that one girl from middle school, where the volunteers work during the summer workshop, she is being mentored. She is a daughter of a rickshaw puller, and she's a very good athlete. She's a very bright student, and so we paired her with a Chicago-based lady who is a HR professional there. She's originally from India, but now living in Chicago. So she has been mentoring this girl from Katihar, and similarly there are other pairs made, and they are talking through WhatsApp video chat. So these volunteers and the mentors, everyone is using technology for this purpose. So WhatsApp video call is very easy, and now in the town, even in the smaller towns, you could find at least one phone with a smartphone in a family. So that is how it is working out. So that is one intervention. We have 3-track intervention. First intervention is like directly intervening at the grassroots level, working with the school kids, going to the school and organizing workshops. And then the mentoring challenge is another program. So this is something working directly with the kids. Second is advocacy. Advocacy, we are trying to talk to our volunteers. They keep trying talking to the politicians and bureaucrats from the state and around education, and tell them or share them what they are learning on the ground. So for example, in my school I wanted to give 4 computers through some CSR funding, but the principal denied. He said that I don't have
space. The principals denied fund. You got them the computer.
Yeah,
and they said no.
Yeah, they said no.
Why?
So it was a very strange incident. We got these 4 computers with e-Vidya platform.
And I would imagine this would not be a high income school.
No, it's the same school I am talking about, that there is just one one teacher between class 11th and 12th.
So a school with one teacher,
Yeah.
hundreds of kids,
Yeah.
gets 4 computers,
Yeah.
and the
They
principal
deny.
says no.
No, yeah.
Okay.
So and the reason he gave that we don't have space, and that was a very foolish reason. Anyway, so the point which came out of it is that I am a student, and look at the Western education model, where a school is built with the community money, or money by or funding by the alumni networks, and so they depend so much on emotional resources of the alums. But here I am going back to my school and trying to do good things, and when I am trying to give back, there is no window where I can go and shout to the government and say that, look, I want to give this and my school is not ready. So that is a case of advocacy. That is the second track, where we are trying to advocate with the government and tell them that you need to do certain changes, you need to create some windows, and alumni network can be immense helpful for the state, for the entire Bihar.
A global
state.
network,
Global,
as you said,
yeah.
Chicago to
Yeah.
Kennedy. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
it's
connect
happening. It's already happening.
mentors from all around the world to spend some of their time. As you rightly mentioned, time is an underutilized asset.
Right. So that is the second aspect of our program, and the third is that how do we reach out to all the stakeholders and even the users, their parents, the elected representatives, and like middle class in all the districts of Bihar. So we are planning to take out Shiksha Yatra in different districts and organize a Jan Shiksha Samvad. Jan Shiksha Samvad is public education dialogue, and through that dialogue, we try to convey that why public education is so important, and especially when 80% of kids are using the public education, and in a state like Bihar where the situation is so bad, so it's very important that all stakeholders come together and understand the value of good quality public education. So that is the mission of the campaign, where we want to bring more volunteers and bring more supporters, and eventually people who go to these schools and colleges and take special classes. So we are not in favor of just organizing talks and discussions, but we want to convert all these into actions, where
Tangible action.
Yeah, tangible action, where people take care of their own schools in their own neighborhood area. So I challenge all the citizens of one particular district and a particular neighborhood area, if they have public schools in their neighborhood, go and see their toilets, go and see the condition of the classroom. You'd be surprised, and the way we keep our house clean, the way we take care of our own children. I believe that people should come forward and take care of the schools, because ultimately the schools are producing these citizens. Like they are the backbone of our society in terms of giving moral values and all the teachings, all the good teachings. And if that is incomplete, then we will end up with unskilled, uneducated laborers in this country. And the way we are talking about demographic dividend, I am very much worried, and I don't want to be negative, and I am not a pessimist, because I come from my action background, and so I am sad to say, I feel sad to say that the situation is, in a state like Bihar, it's definitely a situation of demographic disaster.
Or at least it could be if the situation is not tackled properly.
Yeah, of course. And even now, we don't want to talk about it, but you go and see the data, you go and see the situation, and then you would understand that the situation is very, very bad. It's like a time bomb, which is, like tickling, and it can burst any time.
No, but that's why we need people like you who are trying to address this challenge through different ways. Community is definitely one very solid source of doing that. Tell us, when you were in school, did somebody try and provide you the mentoring, or did you have any support? Where a lot of our listeners would be very interested in understanding, how did you go from an under-resourced school in one of the poorest parts of the world, if not the country, and to Harvard University, and now, to the center that you're heading.
Yeah. So, no, unfortunately, I did not get that support, any mentoring support during my school days, and I have written this in my book also. So it was a very bad experience as a young kid. I went through all the bad things one can imagine can happen with a young kid. So I had a very troubled time, because during my time, there were parents, but my parents, for example, they did not go to school, and they could not finish their school because of the family background or some situation in their family. So I was in a way first to go to school. My elder brothers also went to school, but we were first generation. So I did not get any support. But my elder brother was in Delhi University, so he brought me there somehow here in Delhi. And
after you finished standard 12?
Yeah, so no, for standard 12 I came to Delhi, and I could not finish that. So I went back to Bihar, and that's quite interesting. I went back to Bihar, and then I finished, and then I came back to Delhi. So Delhi, I came back again and took admission here in Delhi University. And I could not score well in plus 2, and so that is why I did not get admission in a good college here. But I wanted to get rid of science, and so I took political science in a college here. So, but I was attending college in Hindu, and the faculties were okay with it, and they allowed me to attend the college.
Oh, so you went to a different college, but you attended classes in a different college.
Yes, exactly.
Called Hindu college.
The Hindu college, yeah.
Okay.
And I went to my registered college was Satyavati College Evening. So, but what happened that I topped in the college. My original college, I topped there. I stood first in BA first year, and that is when I tested the success a bit. And a lot of people congratulated me, and that was for the first time when people congratulated me. And I still remember that for that I was given award by then HRD minister Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi. So he was the HRD minister, so I was given a medal as a topper. And my score was much better than many students in Hindu. So in my class, for example, there were 85 students, and I was in top 10 here also in that college. So during that time, I realized that so much can happen with education, and when you study, it definitely results in a positive way, and then you can move forward. And that is when I decided that I will study as much as possible. And in the entire undergrad, I scored 60%. It was the first division, and during our time 60% was a very decent mark. And then so it was so I scored very well in undergrad, and then I finished my masters. And then I started preparing for civil services, and that time only I also moved to JNU, and in JNU I finished my MPhil, and I also gave civil services exam.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was giving civil services exam, that is when I started my association with SEWA. And so between one mains exam and prelims exam, so and in mains I had scored very well, but between mains and prelims, at times you don't know what's going to happen in your life, and somehow I got this offer to work with SEWA for 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I denied that for two times, and then third time when they approached that it's just 7 months assignment, and so I worked with them in Jahangirpuri. So I used to travel from JNU to Jahangirpuri, And
for those who don't live here, it's quite far.
Yeah, so it's about 35 kilometers. So, and that was my regular routine for a few months. And then I worked with these poor women, and my task was to organize them and open their bank accounts in the banks. And that took 2 months to open one bank account, and that is when I realized.
Which year are we talking about?
So it was 1999.
Wow, so exact just 20 years back.
Yeah, so it was a very it was a very moving experience for me, that how do poor people need to run pillar to post to do a thing done for himself or herself. So a group of women, I was taking them along to different banks, and they were denying to open bank account, although self-help group bank account was mandatory to open for the banks. It was a mandatory thing from RBI, but they were denied. And second task was to, they were street vendors, so to organize them and negotiate for them with the municipal corporation and municipal authority and police. And that is when I realized that there's so much corruption in municipal corporation and police authorities, that they were not just taking bribes from these poor women, but they were also threatening them. They were also scolding them. So their life was very vulnerable. So that 7 months of my association with SEWA was very disturbing for me in a way. And on the other hand, I was going to give.
What did your routine look like at that time when you were doing the SEWA thing between your exams?
Yeah, so it was like going to Jahangirpuri and this slum cluster where these women used to live, and meeting them, going there, meeting them, taking them to bank, taking them to municipal office, meeting the town planner, meeting the police authorities, because they were being harassed in a market near Chandni Chowk. Mm-hmm. So we used to go to Chandni Chowk, so basically mobilizing them and going from here to there for their work,
Right.
So the task was to help them. So routine was like going to them and then going to different offices and to banks. And so after that I realized that there was something happening in JNU also, on the other hand, because I had to give civil service exam, and I realized that those who are getting into civil services from my class or from my batchmates in JNU, some of them, not everyone, but some of them used to behave very differently, as if they have achieved some great thing, and or they have become stars, overnight stars. So that somehow that led me to think that whether I really want to become one of them, or I want to continue doing the same work with the women which I really enjoy. And that was the time when I was at the crossroads, and I mulled over it, and I decided not to give civil services anymore and continue with SEWA. And that I had a conversation with my boss, and she agreed to it. And women became so happy that I was going to continue, women members of SEWA. And I continued there for 17 years. So it was started for 7 months. It was only for 7 months, and then I ended up doing work with them for 17 years.
Right. And then how did you decide to apply for higher studies? You already had a master's, probably even a PhD.
Yeah. So that is again a very interesting incident, that during SEWA time, SEWA was also part of a course with ISS The Hague, and so it was a diploma course on universalizing socio-economic security for the poor. So I went to attend that PG diploma course from ISS Hague, and that was my first foreign visit. And
which year was this?
It was 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was 2002 when I went there, and that is when, and I was at that time I was also part of JNU. I just came out of JNU campus. So that is when I saw or got exposed to the Western education, and it worked as an appetizer for me for Western education. So it was such a great experience. The classes, some of the classes which I attended, I still remember that there was a faculty called Professor Ashwani Seth, and he used to teach developmental economics, and he was fabulous. So that those classes and the libraries and everything, I got fascinated, and when I came back, then I decided that at some point I will definitely go abroad for some degree, some relevant degree. And
because the whole experience of learning was so fascinating.
Yeah. And yeah, that's true. So, and then I came back, I continued with SEWA, and then I finished my PhD after that. And
after that ISS Hague training, did you think that you were able to do your job better at SEWA?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that program was quite helpful, and that was the first multicultural international exposure for me. And Harvard was again a continuation of that after so many years. But definitely that gave me a lot of confidence, skill sets. It was a short course though, but I learned a lot about various social security, schemes of different governments. So that was the purpose of that program. So I came back, and then I continued with SEWA. I also did some photography, which was a childhood passion. So, and I did it around capturing the lives of poor women workers within SEWA, within informal economy. And I'd be very happy to share that although I was not a trained photographer, my first exhibition was held at House of Commons, London.
Wow.
For a month. Yeah, so that was the power of the subject and the work which I used to do. So that was a great success, and that was then exhibited in most of the exhibition halls in India, and that gave me a lot of confidence, and also I was happy that I was able to showcase the contribution of these poor women working in the informal economy, that how they are contributing to our lives, and how difficult their lives are, but yet they are so happy and they are so hopeful. And that is why I named the entire photo exhibition and also the photo book as Hands of Hope. So Hands of Hope was the title, and because they all are workers and they are working, they are using their hands to work and contribute to the economy.
Right.
They are salt workers, they are paper workers, they are street vendors, they are construction workers. Yeah, so it was a fascinating journey, photographic journey, which I completed. And then we all know that there is a midlife crisis which occurs in our lifetime. So it
occurs at different times.
Yeah, it occurs at different times also. So it happened with me after this photography thing. And then I thought that what should I do? There were two options. One was that I leave SEWA and work in some other organization and do some different work. And the second option was to go for my studies and study, as I earlier mentioned, that I wanted to go abroad. And I'm not boasting, but I used to give a lot of recommendation letters to my colleagues at SEWA, and they were getting scholarships and they were getting admissions at LSE, even Harvard here and there. So I thought that maybe I should also apply. And so
who did you take recommendations from?
So that was my boss at SEWA Bharat, and one faculty at Harvard, and a bureaucrat.
How did you know the faculty? Did you work with him?
Yes. So she still works a lot with SEWA. So she works with informal sector workers.
I see.
So I've been knowing her since many years. So, and then one bureaucrat who is also ex-Mason fellow, so from Kennedy School. So I narrowed down some of the programs, and I thought that if I go, I will only go to Harvard Kennedy School. So I only applied there, And to be honest, I did not have any money. I did not have any.
So Kennedy
guidance.
has many programs. Which one did you pick and why?
Yeah, so this mid-career Masters in Public Administration suited me most because it was 1 year. I did not want to go there for 2 years, and 1 year program was like it also serves for the it is developed in a way that it suits to the mid-career professionals, and it's a
how many years of experience when you went, and how old were you?
So I had about 14 years of experience.
14.
Yeah, and I was 43.
Got it.
Yeah, so so it suited me well. So I applied there, and and I also got full funding, and I got fellowship from Ford Foundation. So it is being administered by the ASH Center there at Kennedy School.
Mm-hmm.
So I got full funding, and I took my family also with me. So they also stayed with me for.
Did you have kids that time?
Yeah. I have 2 kids, and they were there,
Mm-hmm.
and they also had good time. So yeah, that is how the Harvard journey. Basically to learn more, to educate myself more,
Mm-hmm.
and to expose myself to multicultural learning and community
Right.
attracted me to apply, and that is how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great experience, to be at Harvard 1 year. It was a great time.
Definitely, I can imagine. When you applied, did you know what you wanted to do after the Kennedy School?
Yeah, so I wanted to continue with SEWA.
I
So I came back to SEWA, and I continued there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was applying, I was not sure about this education campaign. But after I got selected, I went to Katihar. And as I said, that I used to go to Katihar quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the projects also. So I went there, and I went to my school, and I sat there for some time, and the main reason to be there was to think that what should be I doing when I come back from Kennedy School, because I education wise, I achieved one student would like to achieve, any student would like to achieve. That I finished my PhD, and I was also going to Kennedy School. So that is when I realized and decided that in whatever capacity I can do or I can contribute, I would like to work around public education.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why when I was at Harvard, I started conversation with some of the students from School of Education, and did a lot of brainstorming with them that what
Right.
kind of campaign, voluntary run campaign, because I wanted to continue my work also for my livelihoods. That's also important. So yeah, that is when I decided to do this campaign.
Right. How was the experience of being a mid-career student? What was it like? What did you learn?
Yeah, so it was tough in the beginning, to be honest. So they orient you in maths and economics, and maths was a challenge, and not only for me, but interestingly for many of my classmates.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big challenge, but the teachers were very supportive and very good. So we had 2 weeks of maths and economics classes, and we also gave exam, and so the beginning was challenging. And then the first semester, I think I realized that since I decided to be a student again, then I need to work hard. It's not like if I am sitting in a comfort zone of my own office and directing all my colleagues to do this and that. I needed to do what I was supposed to do as a student. So I worked hard then, and so I could clear all the exams, and I could absorb most of it.
Learn from others.
Yeah. So it was a great experience, and then in the whole class there were about 210 students from different walks of life. So that was also a great experience, that people were from Army,
How
Navy.
come 210? Are they 210 Mason Fellows, or they were
No,
all
they're-
Kennedy
so,
School students?
Yeah, no. So Mason Fellows are those who are from developing countries, but those who are from developed countries they also become part of your cohort as mid-career professionals. Mid-career.
So about 200 and
210. Yeah. So Mason Fellows were like 70 something. So it became a big class, and so as I said, there were people from different countries, different walks of life. So that gave a good learning experience, and it was a great fun, And I also did some class at HBS Business School, and then School of Design. So so that was great.
So in what ways, in addition to what you mentioned, did the year change you or change your thinking about the problem that you wanted to solve? Because today, a few years out of graduation, you're still trying to solve the same problem. How is the stuff that you learned in your master's or at Kennedy help you change your mind towards the problem?
I think one thing which I learned very specifically was to listen to others, and that was a big learning, and in order to find the solution, you need to listen to others, you need to listen to everyone in order to find solutions. So that was a big learning. And when I came back, I started talking to people around education. What do they think? Even now, I try to understand different perspectives. So understanding different perspective is very, very important. And then, I think it also helped me understand more how to make a thing, or make your work, or develop your work in a way that it looks a very comprehensive, and it finds a complete solution. It's just not one part of it. So if you are looking at public education, then look at the entirety of the problem and look at the entire solution. So that the canvas, the course helped me in broadening my canvas in terms of understanding, and also usage of data in order to analyze the problem,
right,
and to tell people by using data. So that was a big learning again, and that is what I am doing now. I am writing a lot of op-eds these days in Times of India and other places, and I'm using a lot of data along with my experience on the ground. So experience on the ground, working on the ground, and combining with your experience with data, that creates a very powerful and strong narrative,
right?
And that is very important, and that is what I find missing in our country. That either people sitting on data, analyzing just data, and not working or not translating them into action, or people who are working on the ground, they don't understand the meaning of data, or they don't understand, or they are unable to understand it theoretically. So how do we connect theory with practice and data with practice? So these things I could learn in a much better way, and it is helping me a lot in connecting the dots.
Got it. And how did this role happen? You came and joined SEWA. How did you?
So SEWA, I worked there for 2 years after coming back from Kennedy School, and then the Mittal Institute, what we call the Lakshmi, Mittal and Family Institute. The institute was trying to set up its office in 2016, and that is when I came across, and I also applied, and I thought that as I want to work around education going forward, and I have already worked with SEWA for 17 years, almost 2 decades. So why not to try something different? And in a way, I also thought that this will continue my learning, my Harvard experience, being part of the Harvard community, So I decided to apply, and I got through, and I did set up this office, so we are a small team but very powerful team with very powerful work. And as I said that this platform gives me opportunity to interact with top brains of this universe, the faculties of the Harvard University, and I get opportunity to learn from them, to observe them, to understand their thinking, and the good thing is that I am being a bridge to implement their ideas in my own country. So
and take ideas from the country.
Yeah, and take ideas
and see how we can build it
yes,
for the greater humanity.
Exactly. So in a way, I see myself in a very important position where I am working as a connector and leading this center. So connector of the knowledge from both sides, and taking best of both worlds, and doing some good stuff on the ground. Yeah, so this is I'm having a good time. Yeah,
right. You're coming towards the close of the interview. Could you tell us what are some things that you do during your day which makes you more productive or efficient?
Yeah, so I enjoy finishing my work and like taking up challenges. So and challenges which are really challenging, and whenever I am able to finish one challenge, that is I feel very productive, and and then working with the team and building the team, and at the same time if I am able to meet good people who are doing good stuff on the ground or for the country, and who can be productive who can be helpful for the institute. So meeting people, meeting government officials. So these are the things where I feel that this role requires a lot of connections and linkage with the people, with the community, and with the government and different stakeholders. So that way I feel productive, and also by doing my own stuff, the kind of work which we want to do through the institute. We are running few interesting projects, in livelihoods and social entrepreneurship. In science, we are coming up with India Science Fest in January, and we are partnering with Aspiring Minds, and so that's happening in Pune on 11th and 12th January. So that is a big thing. We also organize one Science and Society Symposium with Niti Aayog.
Right.
So we are organizing some events around sciences to make science popular among young kids and people. So that is the goal. So that is very exciting, and that is again a very exciting part of this role, is that I am working across the disciplines. So earlier I was only focusing on women's empowerment, but now we have programs around arts, we have program around sciences, we have program around humanities and social sciences.
Right.
So in arts, we are also trying to do a lot of work around arts conservation. We are working with CSMBS Museum and other people who are working in art conservation space. So we are exploring how Harvard faculties can help the people here in developing courses around art conservation. In sciences, I already explained, and in social sciences, we have projects around livelihoods and social entrepreneurship. So all this work keep us busy and keep me busy, and so we are looking for new opportunities, new dimensions, and it's all very exciting.
Right. Last question. Any parting advice for young professionals and students thinking about building a career in this space?
In which space?
Either social change or social entrepreneurship, or both.
Yeah, so I would suggest that to do what you really want to do, and there are times when you think that you are not able to pursue your passion because of some compulsion. You need to do a job or do something else. So, but from my life, I have learned that you can pursue both, simultaneously. And it's just that you have to find time, you have to manage time. For example, during my weekends I do all the voluntary work. So one can easily do such thing. So even if you are social entrepreneur or working in social change areas, I would suggest that do as much as possible, because there are few things which I keep myself, which I always keep in my mind. One is that our time in history is now. That is very important to understand. So whatever, our time will be remembered due to our action. Whatever we do. So our time in history is now. Second is self-progress is not sufficient. It's not, we all need money to grow and to do well and to enjoy life. But at the same time, we should never forget that we are the fortunate ones, that we went to good schools and we achieved so much. So after you achieve something, you should always think to give back, and give as much possible. And also that in a country like India, it's very important to build capacity of people, to build capacity of others, and because I talked about demographic dividend and demographic disaster. So demographic dividend can only happen if we all circulate our ideas, if we all help build others to build their capacity. So that is how we all can grow. And this is the most beautiful thing, if you are able to give back to others and help others. This is the most beautiful things which I have learned from my life. But at the same time, we all need money. We all need money to sustain our lives. That is also important. But how much? And that is a question. That is a big question. That's a big relative thing.
And a personal decision.
Yeah?
And a personal decision.
Yeah, it's a very personal decision. So it's up to each of you, each of us. And but at the same time, we all have, those who are listening to this podcast, we all have power to give back. And in whatever form, in whatever capacity we can give back, we should always give back.
Yeah. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks Utkarsh. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.